for. Nicholas in particular coming out with kind of a breakthrough game on his Tracer, and if they can rely on that more going forward, especially now that we are in the era of shutdown Tracers, I think it's to be quite good for for complexity.
Are you talking about? Go ahead.
Oh no! I was going to say let's look at the roster real quick because talking about Nicholas and Torque have both been performing well this entire season, and this has been a pair that has been inconsistent in the past, and there have been the big question coming in. But then after they started performing really well, the question was, well, who else are we going to even see on the roster? But one thing I want to talk about with complexity is, while Immortals has been inconsistent from a day-to-day, game-to-game sense, it seems like complexity is more of a week-to-week sense. I mean, it depends on what they're coming in with, and with the fact that they came out really strong with Renegades yesterday, they're definitely going to be coming out on firing on all cylinders, if I had to guess.
You mentioned the shutdown Tracer, and I was just going to mention the shutdown Diva was more impressive to me. Making the rotation and making the call to decide Magnitude's a problem, and we're not going to go after it the traditional way. We're not going to try to switch over to double hit scan. That's not worked for us in the past, and I think that's a big maturity step for them. Understanding this is our weakness. It's still our weakness, but we're going to find a way to cover it up. They ran 4 tanks. Diva absolutely shut down Mangachu after what you've called, and I agree, probably the best fair performance we've ever seen in Overwatch.
It was probably the craziest round of Pharah play you will ever see. Of course, you can still check that out if you look at the VOD from yesterday. But you're right. I mean, Complexity did adapt around that. They didn't try and run Pharah v Pharah, which probably would have been bad after the first round of Pharah v Pharah that failed miserably. They went with the idea of, we're just going to run more tank heavy. We're going to neutralize this in whatever way we can, at the very least, to make Renegade show us that they can run something else. And Renegade sticked on the Pharah, even though it was getting countered repeatedly.
Yeah,
and by sticked, I'm just going to own that. The proper word is stuck.
Sticked and stucked. Well, you know what? Colloquially, I'll give you the pass on that one. But yeah, talking about adaptation, that is, it's very important. We didn't see it necessarily as far as Mangachu switching off of the Pharah, but we did see multiple adaptations from Complexity, and that has to be the scariest thing for Immortals coming in here, is they brought the Widow on Temple of Anubis that was able to take out Pharah on the first point. Then they were able to bring 4 tanks on Nepal, and that was where they really turned it around. And then finally, when Pharah was out on Dorado, actually making a lot of work happen, they did bring 3 hit scan just briefly, and that's finally when Mangachu was like, okay, I'm going to switch off of this, got back on 76, but at that point, it was too late. And looking back at Immortals, though, they don't normally adapt quite as quickly. You almost can guess exactly what they're going to bring. But you know what? Let's not talk about that, because I want to talk more about Complexity, specifically the player to watch, before I forget. There's so much to talk about. And it is going to be Nicholas in his outstanding performance on Tracer. He's been playing it all season, but yesterday was definitely a standout for him. And he has solidified his spot in my mind as one of the best Tracers, definitely in this event. And he really just did it justice yesterday.
The probably leader of this Complexity team. We made grand declarations yesterday of who we thought the best players were on different teams, and I would put Nicholas in this conversation too. He's been the more consistent of their DPS, able to switch off, and I really was impressed with just the shutdown Diva, the awareness of game sense that he had to constantly be on Mangachu, not letting Mangachu do anything, which I think is the perfect contain for Mangachu, where he's not dying, but he's not doing anything, because then he's not going to switch off. Like, I've been alive this whole time, but he's not getting kills. It's perfect how to deal with him. Nicholas is their Pharah. He runs a lot of heroes very well. Mostly, he is the one bright spot of consistency on this Complexity roster.
No doubt about it. And I think one thing that's interesting, too, is that it is a little bit of a return to form for Nicholas in particular, because you think back to when Complexity was really on top of the mountain. You go way back in their history when they were Code 7 before they were picked up by TSM. Then you had things come up and suddenly they're on Complexity. But you go way back when, they made their bread and butter off double Tracer play back when you could do that. And they sort of got away from Tracer as time went on. There were large swaths of time where you didn't see them on Tracer at all. So the fact that they're able to use Tracer more effectively here does actually harken back to days where they were arguably their most threatening to the established top teams.
Yeah, and right now Tracer is very important, and so that is no small part of their victories in this event. Well, let's take a look at Immortals, which is going to be their opponents in this match, of course. And let's take a look at their roster coming out here. And if we talk about Tracers, of course, Immortals have shown a couple different players on Tracer, as we're going to pull up their roster here in a second. Hyped has played it in the past, but more lately, we've actually seen Grim Reality playing that Tracer. What are your thoughts about their picks that they have in their pockets here versus Complexity?
I would say that Immortals overall has probably been the least adaptive team to this recent meta. When they've done well, it's basically going back to the meta before, where it's a lot of triple tank setups that have one primary DPS and Grim, and it does work out for them, but it does also worry me about them at the same time. The fact that they haven't been able to adapt to things that are more common in this current meta and run them well, the fact that they feel pretty much hamstrung to running the 3-tank style. It wouldn't normally draw this comparison, but it kind of reminds me of old school NIP, where for better or for worse, they were always running triple tank. Immortals has been more stuck to that than I think they would like to be here, which they could still win games with it, but it is worrying in the longer term.
The one thing they've proven composition-wise is that they can't run 3 DPS. Not at the level that these other teams are running it, so that hinders your dive compositions and things like that going forward. They're best suited probably with the people they have on the roster to run 2-2-2. You've got great DPS. That the flex tank from Hyped has been his better side of it rather than him on the DPS, but they have been adapting a little bit. They've been slow to adapt, but I do say, I brought it up that they're being more aggressive on some of these maps, which is something newer teams have been doing, and they're having mixed success with it, but I think it is a good sign that they're at least trying to adapt because they're on the verge of becoming a very stale and predictable team.
And they've been trying to adapt in picks as well. I mean, they're trying to bring different things. They're trying 3 DPS. They actually tried it in the first game of the series, which was compLexity versus Immortals. And compLexity, even with brand new tanks that didn't end up working out, they were able to stop the 3 DPS option from Immortals. The thing is they always have to switch back. And I'm always very torn because I'm like, okay, Immortals, please just switch back to Grim Reality on McCree. That's always fun to watch. But then part of me is like, but you know, you do need to step out of that at some point and be able to find success. And that's the key, is they've been stepping out, but they have not been finding success. Well, that brings us to our player to watch, and it is indeed going to be Grim Reality, as he's played, of course, a lot of McCree. Very exciting to see him on McCree, but he's also the one that they very often tend to choose on Tracer. Any final thoughts on Grim Reality? Do we want to see him more on Tracer in maybe the 2-2-2, or do we want to see more of a protect the McCree composition?
Well, I think it's hard to see him on Tracer a lot of the time just because of the 3-2-1 comps that Immortals has been running as of late, where running a Tracer in that setup is a little bit harder, because then if you have a Tracer doing things like going to the backline trying to be disruptive, well, you're going to have an issue if she gets picked off and suddenly you don't have any DPS whatsoever to support the rest of your team, which is usually why you do see Grim on more 76 than anything else, because even when you are on McCree and say a 3-2-1 setup, you're putting a lot of eggs in that McCree basket when he can be focused down from multiple angles. So they go with the DPS that is highly survivable in 76 because it is also the only DPS they have on the field in a lot of the compositions that Immortals likes to run.
I do agree. I think it might be somewhat map dependent. I think the only time you'll see him just go on to the McCree for sure is if the supports start getting in trouble, and that a lot of that is on Nicholas too. If Nicholas makes support life unlivable, then you might put him on McCree just to stop Nicholas on the Tracer, or you can put him on Tracer to counter that Tracer. He's run a little bit of on control as well. I think some wide open maps will lend itself to a McCree there, and especially if a team's just going to ignore him like they've done at some points as well. So I think his McCree is still his best hero. It's just finding the right situation to fit it in, and you can run Tracer on every single map, so why wouldn't you?
Well, and speaking of maps, we do have our first map. It is going to be Hollywood, where these teams are going to duke it out first. Is the first map of the map pool is a hybrid map, and this one has not been good to Immortals in history, but apparently they've been working on it because they were the ones that selected it this time around. Maybe they've turned it around. They have been trying a lot of new things, and maybe this has been in their back pocket the whole time. As the last time I think we saw them, actually it was against LG Evil, and that did not go well. We were not on map for very long. Any thoughts about Hollywood coming into this matchup, though?
I think I would favor compLexity here. I think it's a map that they've been very good on for a very long time. Immortals has struggled with it, not necessarily first point, but I worry about them on second point.
I mean, that's fair, especially when you look at the history of the teams coming in. And I do think it still matters as to what IMT team we actually see coming in here. I think that Immortals, if they show us what they showed us back in the monthly melee just a little bit ago, I actually think this would be still very rough for compLexity, particularly as they are working out their final roster spot. But if Immortals comes out like they did earlier in the week, when their first 2 maps against LG Loyal, I think compLexity could just run away with Hollywood. So we're going to find out very quickly in this map what we're actually dealing with.
Yeah, I'm also curious to see. It seems like Immortals, they sometimes have a hard time getting started, literally just building up the momentum early. They'll lose the first couple of fights, and I think they need to come out swinging here, as they are going to be on defense first. going up against complexities. We're waiting for everyone to get in, making sure everyone's connected. We got a lot of Europeans trying to connect from across the pond, so to speak. But other than that, the only other thing I wanted to bring up is Farah, because these teams each have their interesting relationship with Farah. First of all, how has complexity interacted with opposing Farahs in history?
They're not good at shooting Farahs.
That's it. All right, moving along. No, anyway, yeah,
they wish that they had someone with good aim to attack Farahs. If we're just going to really cross the streams on memes here. But complexity, they've had trouble dealing with Farahs on a historical level, especially on Hollywood. This is where they had that iconic game against Cloud9 where Mendo was basically not attacked for a 6-minute stretch in Hollywood. So they have a mixed history with dealing Farahs in this case. I don't think, say, running a Diva right into the Farah would be as effective as it was on Nepal in terms of just way more skybox real estate here. Although on the same note, you don't really see Immortals really favor running Farah all that often either. So I don't think it's a concern complexity is going to have coming in here.
It's not. And they dealt with it very well, obviously, against Mangachu. But that's what I was going to bring up is, well, it turns out in this case, Immortals, they almost don't even have a Farah player. Agilities has played it. Hyped actually played it earlier on in the season, interestingly enough, as they were trying to figure out where he fit into this roster, honestly, and then maybe potential 3 DPS compositions. And so how much of that is a hamstring to Immortals not really having a strong Farah option?
It hurts. Obviously, you would like to have everyone on your team be able to run every hero at a certain point. But there are some very high-level North American teams who were in Korea that don't really have a Farah, and they've done okay. So it's really just playing to your strengths. It'd be nice to have someone work on it. Agilities has had great lives on Farah.
Oh, no.
Right, and the upside for Immortals at the very least, too, it's not quite an envious situation where they just have no one that can run projectile DPS efficiently. They still have great options and agilities running there on the Genji. So it's not all bad for IMT.
No, and they've definitely found success without it. Well, we're going into map now here on beautiful Hollywood, and I just want to remind you that hashtag OCS plays at GameCarbon on Twitter is still something that we're looking to give away a bunch of stuff for. So make sure you are tweeting out all of your favorite plays with the hashtag OCS plays at GameCarbon for your shot at some stream time as well as some free swag, and here they come, spawning onto the map.
All right, and take a look at the defense coming out here from Immortals. No real surprise here, Hex. Again, it's that sort of 3-2-1 defense we were talking about that a lot of teams have sort of disregarded in favor of having dive attacks instead for the defense, but Immortals keeping it very old school.
Well, Roadhog is great to get in on this defense against a dive composition. Very good against flankers who are going to be there. That is a nice hook 2.0 off the edge, unable to finish that kill off of the hook as Agility's going to have to wait for that to come back off of cooldown. Of course, the lengthy cooldown. Agility's very low. Surprised that Nicholas isn't coming in on him. There it is. There's a pick.
Nicholas able to win that versus Agilities. It's a little bit uncharacteristic for Agilities, but it's great for Nicholas' complexity. Now, swarming back onto the point. No longer having to worry about the Roadhog hook as a factor here. And this is actually very good for complexity. They're coming in on Immortals on all angles. They're about to pick off this area, but no, Nomi protecting at the last moment, gets the hammer kill. And now, more of a chance here for Immortals to actually hold this back as they take down both TJO brothers.
Both DPS now down, and there comes the late kill onto Meza. Push effectively over with 0 progress on the point. They're going to be on the chase looking for a little bit more. Hits a long distance headshot on the Zenyatta, but will eventually fall out. That is a nice bomb onto Nomi to open this up for complexity on their next push.
If there's been an Achilles heel at times for Immortals, that Nomi sometimes is a little bit far out and gets picked off. Now, this is going to be a case where they're going to have to defend this without their Reinhardt. However, take a look at Grim. Almost has ultimate up here. He's going to have a Winston in his face. He's going to get zoned out of this fight for a while as complexity dominant on the point right now. Almost 2 ticks to their name. And here comes Torque with the tactical visor finisher. In over the top, picks up 1, and they're still keeping Immortals off at this point.
Very nice preemptive tactical visor, knowing that they were going to try to come push. The opposing tactical visor comes to the other side, but that's a beautiful transcend from Shake. Will keep most of his team alive. They do end up losing Joe Meister in it, but they will trade him for the point every day of the week. They grab this first point, and just nice transcend from Shake. Really negated that ultimate from Grim Reality. Got nothing.
And complexity coming in the second here, not with tons of momentum, but they will still have positioning over Immortals, and Immortals not really running anything that's going to let them get back on their rooftops anytime soon here, so this could be a playground for Torque to some extent. Interesting to see how Immortals actually deals with Torque in over the top, and Nicholas, they take down Grim. Now nothing can really stop Torque as he's on the high ground.
Nicholas is just getting pulse bomb kill after pulse bomb kill. It has been a treat to watch. Nomi will get a blind charge onto Reach, who found himself out in no man's land. However, they will finish off this Winston. Got some free push on the cart, but now defense is going to stabilize in good position here to hold a defense right around first bet.
Well, they're trying to win the ground war, and what a nice earth shot from Nomi. Gonna be knocking down 2. Fall through is there. And I'm gonna note, by the way, Grim got his way to the top and assassinated Torque. So everything going the way of Immortals there, despite kind of the not favorable opening to how that started out.
It's nice to see Immortals bounce back here, because oftentimes on second point, once it starts going bad, it just continues to go bad. This is a bit of the new aggressive style we've seen from Immortals trying to get in here. It has gotten them out of position a couple times. Grim has to be careful in the back lines. I remember Grim being back here in a 76 that didn't work out for them not too long ago too, so you have to be very careful. Torque gonna look out for all this damage, but Reach goes down early to Nomi.
Reach was just trying to go into the backline, build up Dragon Blade a little bit quicker, and ran afoul of a Reinhardt in the process. So now this is Immortals getting even more aggressive. complexity find themselves in a situation they are not strangers to in their spawn door.
Well, one of the very first spawn camps in Overwatch we saw happen to this complexity team, and having flashbacks of it now, it seems like they do get bullied into their spawn more than other teams, having to use ults to get out.
Well, they lose Nicholas immediately. Agilities with the quick pickoff. Here comes Torque with the tack visor. It's a little bit of a rush tack visor, and he just gets punished. It's not at all what he was looking for. I mean, they were just trying to bully their way out, but they're getting punished on all angles. Even Ethan getting into the fray.
And that is another kill onto Nicholas as he tried to get out. The hook kill. Hook does damage when it lands. Able to kill Nicholas there with the Roadhog hook. Desperately looking for answers here. They're going to put Torque onto McCree to try to bust out a spawn.
Well, the key thing here is Hype does have the Graviton up for the next fight, and with so much fall through, Big Bang, Whole Hog, many options here. Here comes Hype. Gonna drop the Graviton into the back line, and then the rest of Immortals just diving in on it. Swings the hammer and blows them up. Double combination from Grim and Nomi there on the Graviton that just completely wiped complexity off the map.
90 seconds remain on Hollywood here. Yes, they captured first point. Now they are having a hard time getting out of spawn. That's to put it lightly. They've been burning ults to try to get out here, have not been able to do it. They built another ult. Primal Rage comes in. They will take down Nomi, perhaps a little too far forward. Having to burn this Winston ult just to get out here. 6v5 in this fight.
complexity just desperately trying to break out of the spawn area. They do take down Grim, and now I think Immortals will back this up a little bit here. They're going to wait for respawns. complexity again trying to get the most out of this, but oh, Immortals, they're counter-engaging. They have the sound bearer up. They're all in, and it works. Meza going to fall. Hyped, supercharged right now at 100. Oh my goodness, complexity. I don't think they've really been stuck on Hollywood for this long, right at Cafe when they already have first. This has been brutal coming in from Immortals.
It's been even difficult to watch. They've been burning every single ultimate to try to get out. Meza, no, never mind.
He still has time to tease me even as he's waiting for people to come back in. Well played, Meza. You know, I give props for doing that in the middle.
That's actually pretty impressive. Here comes a Deadeye now trying to break out. Shields are up for the side of Immortals though, and the hook comes in and will erase Torque.
Gone fishing, and here's the grab. Gonna pull in 4. Immortals has no backfire. The Big Bang just blows up 3. Ay, ay, ay.
Well, that was a Hollywood defense for Immortals, and they look angry. Is that an appropriate word? This is as aggressive as I've ever seen them play.
One does not merely separate Immortals from their source of coffee in that cafe. I mean, it was half day off on lattes. You can't expect them to leave that quickly.
Yeah, looking like they are amped on some espresso. Not the largest push there on the hybrid map. They were able to take first, of course, but that's about it. Not a whole lot of push after that. Immortals with a very defined goal on Hollywood. Oh man, those spawn cams are just demoralizing though.
It was not only demoralizing, but overall, they were just beating complexity on every mechanical level imaginable. Yeah, Nicholas was able to get a pickoff or 2 here and there, but other than that, complexity just wasn't able to get anything done. Well, no matter what facet of the game you want to look at there, It was just domination. Look at that hook. That's almost a max range hook. Hype comes in. Graviton.
With his third Graviton of the camp, by the way. I mean, we give Hype some grief sometimes. We're questioning his DPS play, but his off-tank play is great. That was one of his better Zarya games, and that's saying a lot for Hype. He had Grav up nearly every time they tried to push out.
Also, just the coordination there. That was basically coming in from 3 different angles, and Grim's just like, oh yeah, by the way, I'm here. Enjoy.
All right. So there are the Simpson-esque aliens, an homage to those aliens. Is that Krotos and
Kang and
Krang?
Kodos.
Yeah, okay, there you go.
I mean, don't blame me. I voted for Kodos, personally.
Oh, big fan.
The best part there is how you have Ross Pro just stamping on a hat at the very end, just frustrated.
Ah, sure, throw your vote away. Well, this is Immortals now on the attack. Grim Reality does queue up the McCree early on here. Defensively, I guess the question to look at for compLexity is what reach is going on, the newest edition of their roster. Played a lot of Genji last game, played a little bit McCree. He's going to flex onto the Zarya as they try to run a very standard 2-2-2 defense.
Problem is for compLexity is that they're going to have to hold this basically the entire time. I think if first gets capped, Immortals will have a very easy path to victory here. And for Immortals, they're running this relatively standard as well. They're going to be hoping that Joldies gets pickoffs to open things up, and Grim's going to be the muscle behind the back. So they are trusting in the McCree here, which I do like from Immortals. And look at this, they're able to just get in through unscathed. Now they can have a much better attack here onto the Cafe.
It's a cool rotation, so they're going to let Agilities be the one who's poking and looking. He does hit a hook early, and that is a bad flashbang, though, from Grim. Maybe a little mistime on the roll and flash as he was trying to get it over top, but they have invaded Cafe. They've got everyone alive.
Everyone is alive. Grim is going to have great positioning here on the top, assuming he doesn't just die to the soldier. But 2 kills here from Jildies. He has opened the door, and now you get the McCree cleanup towards the very end, which is absolutely devastating. But really, it's just the Jildies cleaning up. Who needs the McCree anyways? It's Jildies taking down almost everyone here on the compLexity side. Last bit of cleanup does come in, but the loop around attack into Cafe, very successful here for Immortals.
Very, very successful. Grim will eventually get the cleanup, but it's so important that Agilities was doing all that work. When Immortals is at their best, when they look like the favorites coming into this tournament, it's that not all the pressure is on Grim. It is evenly distributed between Agilities and Grim and the rest of the team as well. So it's a good sign that Agilities is playing well.
5 minutes left remaining here in Hollywood. That is a very long time to defend. Not even halfway through second. Now, they do lose Nomi, who's a little bit far out, but we'll see if compLexity now tries to return the favor with an aggressive defense of their own. They really don't have a choice given where the payload is.
Yeah, they have to. Grim is McCreeping around the backside looking for some free damage here. Now remember, the cart did get a decent amount of distance because their first push did go, I think, just around the general store, almost at the 4th National Bank of the West. Torque up top, gonna have to be dealt with at some point in time. Tactical visor on him as well. Nicholas has gone over to the Diva. That's where they found great success yesterday, and it is the tanks on the ground winning the war.
This is fine to some extent, although it's also scary that compLexity is going that far up. When you have Torque back here, they're going to need to hold it about where they are right now.
Yes.
If they go too far in, Torque's not going to be able to help them, and he might even have a panic tactical visor. So compLexity has to be very careful in their position if they're going to keep Torque stationed up here on the high ground.
They try to enter in now with their tank shield up. Torque will pop this tactical visor, looking for some. Does it? A helix onto Grim.
Grim goes down to B lane. Here comes Torque. Tac visor on the way. Graviton setting the stage. It is decisive from compLexity, catching Immortals fully off guard.
That's fine. Here's what I like. Look at Immortals.
Yeah. The counterpoint is you look at Immortals right now, they're totally fine junk rushing this because they know they only have to win one fight to take this map now.
And 4 minutes to do so. Graviton, boost, everything up except Grim, who just switched over to Tracer off of that McCree, so a lot to work with. The math says they should win this. If Nicholas can eat this grab, great for them, but I think Hyped is going to rotate through the house. I love these mini flanks. It's one of the best flanks, actually, to come here on Hollywood.
They're coming in over the top, and Earthshatter not quite connecting. Shielded off, but the Graviton will connect. 3 people in on that Graviton. Transcends comes out, but it's very late. 2 people already down by the time it comes out, and as a result, Immortals with a big advantage now in this team fight. It's a counter Earthshatter coming in from Meza, but might be too little too late. It was only hitting 2 people at the most, and Immortal's still swarming all over this point.
And Hype is just tracking down on this D.Va. 92% charge. That is a lot of damage coming out from one of your off tanks. Desperation time here as they try to get on the right. A giant right click will take down Joe. The Tracer play's been nice to keep them in this, actually. Just now cleaning up reach. Immortals will take Hollywood off the back of a dominating defensive spawn camp hold after first point.
2 things. One is that compLexity still gets themselves stuck in these spawn camp situations, probably more so than any other team, at least in the Western Sphere.
Yes.
Second is that Immortals, I feel like if they won that, it was mostly off their tank play. I feel like Nomi and Hyped in particular had very good games to set those initiations in relatively close quarters where any mistake for that level of spawn camping action will result in your team getting thrown really far back.
Which has been some of our questions with Immortals have revolved around Nomi and Hyped. So as I said, a great sign for them that Hyped was playing very well. But to your point, Nomi as the anchor tank has to be one of the more consistent parts of the team.
And of course, in terms of just follow through in those fights, agilities and his accuracy in hooks, the ability to land key hooks in fight after fight was absolutely invaluable. So you look at the 3 tank setup coming up for Immortals, every single tank had a very good game there, and it made the rest of the job relatively easy.
Well, and they played exactly their plan coming in, and you could tell that the times when Immortals breaks apart is when they're either their tanks are not in the right position, or they're not playing with their tanks, and Grim Reality's just getting trashed in the back. And they were very safe. They all played around. Grim was always next to his tanks and his healers. And compLexity honestly just wasn't engaging on them, probably because, well, that's a scary situation. And then the only thing that you saw like branch out a little bit, I'm thinking especially about their attack plan that they had coming in, rotating through that light room into Cafe, is they were hanging out in that light room until Agilities went and got a hook, and that was their signal, okay, we can take Cafe. And so they were just playing perfectly as far as their plan coming in.
No doubt about it. And I mean, I did like how they came in through the side. I think that was a case where normally compLexity would have contested that a little bit harder, but I think they were just expecting them to go straight for the point. It was sort of a switch up where they went around the side, and it did give them Cafe in a pretty convincing way. And more so than anything else is that even though it was Agilities who just went crazy in that particular attack, the idea there is that it would have been a very nice area for Grim if it was a closer fight.
I really liked how they set that up too, just rotation-wise, because the whole team could have gone in there knowing the rotation, but you could get met by a party bush or a party Cafe, if you would, at that point in time. They just sent Agilities over there just to try to hit those early hooks and just to be a presence in that room. Roadhog, as a tank, he's frightening. You don't want to be anywhere near him. That 30 radius hook area, you don't want to be caught dead over there, so he takes that room by himself, opens it up for Grim. Grim flashbanged a wall, but I don't remember seeing that.
We didn't see that. We didn't see that.
Yeah. Right, totally.
It was a strategic play there. That wall, yeah, definitely had it out for them. Well, and then you've got Zarya. You've got there for shield potential onto the Roadhog, and either way you slice it, we asked like, well, why did they pick Hollywood? Immortals has not been playing well in Hollywood. We just saw why they did that, because they had plans for attack, they had plans for defense, and compLexity did not have a good answer.
Well, when we did prep for them, we said, wow, in second, they really struggle on defense in these streets. They struggle taking high ground away. They get kind of focused out here. They've decided they just don't want to play that way anymore. They're playing through the Cafe. The Cafe would be one of their strengths, and then they're just going to sit on the spawn. They always struggled in the streets phase of the game trying to control that high ground, so they've decided that doesn't work for us. Why don't we just try this spawn camp? And it's something they've been adding into their game. I mentioned they'll do it on Gibraltar. They'll do it a little bit on Dorado, too, so it's an aggressive turn that they've made.
The other thing, too, is that say whatever you will in terms of him being consistent in some of the more support areas of the game, Reach does not necessarily, at least to this point, he has not shown us explosiveness as a offensive player that could theoretically help punish a spawn camp situation and get compLexity rolling. And he had a very quiet Hollywood in how he was playing. So I don't think that really helped complexity a whole lot there. I do think that if they still had Nesh, I think they probably would have found a way out of that, but they didn't.
Well, and I was thinking that whole time, I was like, well, what would happen to Immortals if they did get broken, if that early defense get broken? What would they have on Streets phase? Well, we may never know because they were able to hold. But yeah, you need something to break that up. And they brought Torque on McCree, and that did, well, we all saw how that worked out with that almost perfect like play from that top-down view with the replay. I'm excited to rewatch that later. But we are going on to Temple of Anubis for our second map, and complexity, they're down 1-0 in the series, so they were the one that selected this one, but I have no reason to believe they would have selected anything else if it was Immortals.
Hollywood, Anubis, Nepal has been on our plate for the last several nights, so getting used to these map rotations. Hanamura, I don't think it's really that teams are in love with Anubis. I think it just between the two teams don't like pushing Hanamura last. It is an exercise in futility and frustration. And as I mentioned, as an offense, you have to win so many fights just to start the fight. You have to win an opening fight to take top, and then you have to start the fight again. You have to win like 3 fights just to even have a chance at taking Hanamura last, which is probably why we're seeing a lot more Anubis.
Well, it is interesting, again, because you take a look over the course of the Carbon series, teams have had a real trouble actually winning the maps that they pick, A. And then B, we have seen teams really neglect to take advantage of the idea of maybe we'll specialize in a map that not everyone else is playing. Because I think it really shows itself on both Assault and Control right now, where we have seen teams have varying preferences on Control, and yet we've been seeing Nepal game after game, even going back to the Overwatch Monthly Melee, which use the same pool. And now, Assault-wise, we're seeing teams just sort of shun Hanamura and put all their efforts and practice on the Temple of Anubis, which is interesting because I do think you can make the argument that maybe it would be better to look at some of these other maps and try and create creative strategies. But for whatever reason, as far as how teams have been scrimming behind the scenes, they've really just been honing in on a handful of maps, and that's why I think you've been seeing relatively little map variety. There are other maps in these pools. As
it turns out, look at our website. I think we have them all up there. But no, well, we don't have any chance to see Hanamura this round, but we may still have a chance to see a different CP map. So cross your fingers for that. We want to see a little bit of diversity there. But I do want to remind everyone real quick before we get into map about the option to get some cool stuff. There we go. We have we wanted to get the picture up there to entice you, to bring you in. If you're not already on Twitter, or if make sure you're getting there and hashtag OCS tweeting at Game Carbon for your chance at getting a little bit of that action. But we are going to be going into the map right now, and it's going to be Temple of Anubis. Immortals came out strong there on map number 1 with a plan, and now we're going to see if complexity has a plan coming into Temple of Anubis, as they're going to be trying to tie things up at 1-1 in this series.
What would be your favorite piece from that swag bag, ZP? And I know you have some of the stuff already, but there's scarves, there's pins, little Funko Pop Widow. What do you got your eyes on? What do you want me to steal from the studio later is what I'm
I mean, okay, as far as it goes, I have a Winston at home already. I have a Primal Rage Winston limited edition from BlizzCon.
Oh.
But you can never go with too many Winstons, because the reality is that I like to think that I could use them to take over the world, or at the very least, take over the moon. So for me, the army needs to begin. I would definitely take another Winston.
I am currently shopping a movie script in which ZP's stuffed Winstons come to life and do his bidding. So far, not able to get it down to an NC-17 rating. I need to go through a couple more edits. I want the pins. I know this is like being really lame, but the pins are the coolest part to me. I know
that is a dark
so
path,
much.
Hex. There are people for the pins where you start getting into pin trading, and then you have pin lanyards, and then before you know it, you are scouring eBay at 3 a.m., completely disheveled, looking for that one guy who might have that limited edition pin that you're missing. I'm just saying, Hex, it is a dark path.
I actually do have a limited edition one. I got that from BlizzCon. I got the gold one. Anyway, enough of our Blizzard swag talks here, as complexity versus Immortals is underway now on Temple of Anubis. Defense will run a dive-ish composition, but Torque will be on 76, very likely in the high ground. Offense running pretty divey as well. Going to try to rotate into the LG Evil slot here. Take a lot of damage, Nomi is, but he's going to get nice and healed up before the fight begins.
Immortals very healthy here as they get to the high ground. That is always what you like to see for an offense hyped. Taking a breather here, getting healed up by Ethan. So Immortals can be at full now with very good positioning to get onto this point. Complexity can have to scramble a little bit in counter diving. They'd have to counter dive up elevation. Not the easiest thing to do, as Reach can get that first pick off. Gets on the Verbo here for the defense. So this is going to force Immortals' hands to either deep dive now or get out. And Looks like they're trying to dive in, but we'll see if it's actually effective.
Well, Nomi goes down, but this is taking so long that right now, even if they trade out, it's actually okay for Immortals. They should be able to get people back in this fight. They have taken down a few of their own as Meza is going to be down for the next fight. There goes Shakelate too. These trades are going to start snowballing.
Oh, it's very much snowballing here. It's 2 extra kills here for Immortals, make it 3. The offense in full effect. And with Grim getting those final 2 kills, that should be all that's needed to take this decisively. And now you take a look at Hype. He's going to have self-destruct up for the next push. A lot of ways that Immortals can snowball this into a very quick 1-2 take.
Absolutely. They're going to have the boost, and Agilities will have a Dragon Blade up. That could be it right away. They have a huge ultimate advantage now, and they have to know it.
So I would expect the self-destruct to come in and a Nano Blade. This is completely great for the side of Immortals. And here they go. Nano Blade out, 2 supports, 1 swipe. Agilities hitting Pager at the spawn door, not reached in time. Torque with the world's saddest tactical visor here. Like, seriously, there's no way that's gonna work from that angle.
No, not great. A desperation tactical visor too. And they have gotten kill after kill. A boosted Winston is their last best hope, but Meza goes down too. Hyped there too. 2 ticks about to be reached for Immortals. They're getting some throughput here. They will Sound Barrier.
Well, Reach is trying to be the hero. Dragon Blade comes out, Sound Barrier ruining his day. The music just not agreeing with his vibe. Immortals getting every single kill right now. There's still 5 minutes and 40 seconds left. This would be enormous amounts of time left in their time bank. They are less than a tick away here. compLexity just hoping for a miracle, but thus far, it does not appear to be happening.
They're not getting any kills here. The Mei will come out, but Mei goes down. Nicholas does actually get sticked by Grim Reality, and this has been all Immortals, still unable to get the final ticks. The stall game has been pretty solid from compLexity.
The stall for compLexity is keeping them alive here, and they are purposely staggering this as much as possible. So at some point, Immortals might have to go a little bit further out, actually stop people at the spawn door, but that won't even be required. Round 1 is complete in a blazingly fast time here in favor of Immortals, where once they started that snowball first, it just kept rolling in the second, and credit where credit's due. When you're a player like Agilities and you're able to get both supports with 1 swing of the blade, you have done your job and then some.
A game of inches as they were trying to retreat to spawn. We're so close. I thought they might make it, but Dragon Blade has a pretty solid range on it there. Snipe through at the end. Very good first attack for Immortals as we see what compLexity wants to do on their attack. I was mostly impressed with Immortals' dive. They have the heroes to do it. They've got the players who can run it. You don't have to run as pure of a dive as some other teams, but Tracer, Genji, they've got a couple of those. Nomi can play a decent Winston. That's enough, and they coordinated very well.
Indeed, and I just want to say here, he was already tweeting about it, but please do not be fooled by Meza. I think at this point I've just become numb. My heart has become black as stone towards these teases of Orisa. I mean, we did see at least 1 round today, and we'll have to be content with that. But otherwise, you take a look at compLexity here, assuming that Meza is going to go onto the Winston. They're going to be running something that's pretty divey, pretty projectile-based, and I expect to see Nicholas probably try to go around that left side flank that we see pretty often.
Yes.
Can catch people off guard, Reach coming in from the opposite side. Meanwhile, Torque very well could be on this Widow, just opening things up from the back.
I think they're expecting a 76 defense here, which is why you'd run it against this, because usually you'd have 76 and Ana up on the perch, but they're going to run a dive defense instead, and it's okay, ZP, to have your heart numb. Welcome to the wonderful world of cynicism and apathy.
I thought you were going to say, welcome to the wonderful world of hexagrams, and just be fully self-depreciating.
They're exactly the same thing. Cynicism, apathy, hexagrams, these are all synonymous with each other. All right, so this dive defense is going to be interesting. Like I said, I don't think compLexity is expecting the defense that Immortals is running. It's going to be interesting to see how they approach it, but Torque should get some shots onto people. A lot is going to be on Hype to be able to shut him down on this D.Va. Torque looking for targets, does not see much. There's a D.Va in his face right away, has to get off.
Well, we'll see if Hyped even lives here. We've been seeing this trend where a D.Va goes in on a Widow and then immediately dies. So far, Hyped is able to back off. Nicholas already down in this fight, so not the best start here for compLexity, but Torque still a threat, able to come right back up. Hype doesn't have the help to get back in on him this time, but Grim is very much just oppressing the crowd for us.
That's a nice play by Torque. The entry headshot and then the gun down too. Very nice. He's getting damage boosted, but still.
I'm kind of getting tired of seeing Winstons and Divas try and get in on Widows here because it has been very ineffective the last few times I've been on Anubis, where Widow has been winning this more often than not because the rest of her team is with her in these situations.
Not quite capitalizing on it just yet, though. Agilities will eventually take down Torque. Ethan all alone in the back against Nicholas. Not ideal for him. Nicholas still alive, still has his Mercy with him. The jump does come up top. Not a tick yet, but this should be compLexity taking control of the fight.
compLexity is certainly taking control of this fight now. And again, you take a look at Immortals. Immortals is very split up in no small part due to just not being able to deal with the Widow effectively. They're sending people up there piecemeal. And even when you got the kill with the Genji, now Agilities is way out of the fight, not able to dash reset and help back on the main. And it just doesn't work out.
How do you deal with the Widow there, do you think? Send both of them at it or ignore it?
I mean, I think you rotate as a team with a full dive defense. You actually have support up there at the time you go for the Widow. Or perhaps you do just run the counter Widow, but whatever we've been seeing from teams dealing with it, it has not been effective.
Yeah, not enough. They're just not devoting the resources that the Widow is getting. Widow's always going to get supported, so it's very difficult to deal with her with just one hero. It's that classic combo math going as well. The Pulse Bomb will come in, but that is a Primal Rage out of it. Here comes a Blade.
Reach right now looking to prove his worth, diving into the Dragon Blade, has the Sound Barrier, picks up one. For a little bit more, dashing into Winston. Gonna get pushed back. Not the biggest Dragon Blade here from Reach. And though compLexity is a little bit up on kills, Immortals is responding relatively quickly here. Nicholas trying to come in from the top and turn this back the other way. Resurrection in for compLexity, so they're very much all in on this fight. Barrage in over the top, grabs two here so far, almost picks up a third. And Immortals barely hanging in here.
2 kills.
They get, as you said, they get the 2 kills, so even though compLexity is more on the point, they haven't gotten a tick yet.
It's only 4 on the point, and they're not resurrecting here. So if they can come in and contest, it could start going very well. Nicholas is going to go down. Here comes a Sound Barrier. Everything now favoring compLexity on the hold.
For attacking last, it has to be pretty much flawless. And unfortunately for compLexity, they were bleeding just enough to let Immortals back into it. They don't go away empty-handed. They do get that tick in the very end. But now the problem is that Immortals is going to have a much more well-set defense, and compLexity is not going to have that ultimate advantage that they did on that last attack.
Kills took too long. If you look even back at yesterday, LG Loyal on their attacks here, you saw a Dragon Blade come down, and while the Dragon Blade was still active, you had Barrage, you had everything. If you're going to go all in, time everything so it's all in completely and get all those kills at the That's how you end up taking assaults here. Now a pretty aggressive hold for Immortals, but this is dangerous. We've seen teams throw out here.
This is a dangerous game that's being played, and yes, Grim does get that Pulse Bomb to reach in the back, but it's a little bit scary here because if you send 2 flankers back here and you're going to create a very big window for compLexity to just run up the gut. So they lose Verbo. Flankers need to retreat here in a hurry because this is already going to be a 65 opportunity for compLexity.
Well, they lose Verbo, but they're still so far out that by the time they get on the point, Verbo will be back. Here comes a Dragon Blade from Agilities going to the back line, is able to get Shake. Sound Barrier doubled down on this aggressive outside holds. They're getting the kills they need.
Heck, at this point, if you're compLexity, you just hold back and punish Immortals for the dive and then go for it?
Yes, you wait. You wait and let them dive if that's what they're showing you, and you try to get one of these kills early on without losing any of your own. I think that's what Torque has in mind here. They've done a decent job, though, compLexity, of holding their ultimates, aside from the Sound Barrier that did go out, so they are going to bank 5 here, whereas Immortals has been using them all, so they have a huge ultimate advantage, compLexity does.
compLexity going to have probably the best window that they could count on here in just a moment, so long as no one gets picked off as they approach. Now, this is one downside about dealing with an aggressive defense is that you can lose people before you can use ultimates. Torque and Reach moving in. They pick up 2 very early on. Both supports down here from Immortals, and Nicholas feels compelled to use the Barrage really early. Doesn't get anything for it. And this is problematic here for compLexity because now they've already lost a few people, and this is a time that they need to get a compelling force here on the point.
Well, Shake did already go down, so a lot of the healing going to be nerfed on this point. They already have 2 ticks, so looking for that 3rd bit of damage. That's all the kills for compLexity right now.
And in the end, Immortals not able to reinforce. It was looking a little sketchy there for a moment, but Immortals was so spread out that they weren't really able to return to a staggered defense. And I gotta say, all in all, especially for the limited amount of time that was bought by Immortals, I wasn't really feeling the crazy stall-out defense on Anubis. You also don't see teams try and run that level of stall defense on Anubis all that often either. Certainly not in the Western scene.
I understand it, though, I think, for Immortals. It's one of those issues where are we going to be able to get back and fight again if we lose people out here? So that's where you saw some of the heroes going very far out were the heroes who can reinforce quickly, like a Tracer, like a Genji. Where I have issue with it is using all the ults they ended up throwing at it, because then you're just going to be down a huge deficit, and I don't care how much better you think you are than the other team. 0 ults against 5 ults, not a good situation to put yourself in.
No, it's definitely not. And the logic there for Immortals is very simple. The idea of, well, if you take down one early on the back line, we'll be able to respawn and get back onto that point no matter what. The problem is that they gave up way too many people way too decisively there, and they didn't really leave themselves enough room for error to actually get that respawn train rolling in.
I completely agree. It did not look all that crisp from compLexity either, and that was an odd barrage we saw out there. They lost some on the entry, but regardless, as a status update, 3 minutes on the time bank for compLexity, 5 minutes for Immortals. compLexity will be on their second attack. We do have another Widow here, and teams have struggled to deal with it effectively so far. I actually like this, to sit back there. Just sit back there.
Sitting back there is fine. It's challenging the Widow directly one-on-one that's been going bad. Nice mid-air rocket there from Nicholas as he's looking for the proper entry, of course. Still getting supported in the back line by that Widowmaker, but now goes into a situation where Torque can't shoot and falls right away. Torque, meanwhile, plenty of room to operate here in the back, but the Reinhardt causing a little bit more trouble. So this is a little bit better here for Immortals. I'm curious to see if we see Nomi try and get in on Torque, but with him so low there, or rather hyped so low there, I don't think we're going to see that.
Agilities was in big trouble to start out this map and got his life saved by his teammates. If they had lost Agilities, who had gotten all sorts of damage on him, had to dash out, that would have been very rough for them. So far, though, very first hold working well. It's been 30 seconds off the clock, not a kill so far for compLexity on this secondary attack, trying to just help out and deal with the Winston as the combo comes in over top.
Immortals is very weakened right now, but they still have all 6. Now, they did just lose that. Agility's picking his time to take down Torque, and that's really well timed. He was helping out in the fight the entire time, waited for everyone to be away, and then took the one-on-one versus Torque. So it's a better way of dealing with it than what we've seen.
We got to get this Mercy.
He's going for the Mercy right now, in the back, really fighting upstream, but here comes the Dragon Blade. Builds up in the last moment, slicing, gets one support, looking for more. Can't get Mercy right away, but does get her. Takes her down in midair. And Agilities, last swing of the blade, doing the duty, and compLexity gonna be finding themselves pushed out a bit here.
Agility's doing everything you want from a Genji right now. Fighting Pharahs, taking out Widows, making sure he gets that completion kill onto the Mercy so there's no resurrection. The backswing of that is next time they fight, Mercy will have the resurrection, so she will be a top priority again. They are going to stagger out this Diva too.
The other thing, too, is that they will have a Dragon Blade up for the next fight, and Torque now the Diva going for more of a frontal setup, but it also means they don't have to worry about the Widowmaker pressure. They can be far more free in how they're positioning, especially with what they're running right now.
Unable to finish that Diva that they wanted to stagger. Nicholas gets very low. They don't finish that kill either. Nicholas does go down to Grim eventually. Here comes a boosted Agilities.
Agilities boosted. Who needs a Nano Blade anyways when you just have the Nano? Moving to the back, finds Showmeister, but there's the res. This is where compLexity must win. Sound Barrier after the resurrection into Dragon Blade. Beta 1 stuff coming out here, and very difficult to fight the turn for Immortals, but Agilities is still here. Has a Dragon Blade. I just don't know if he really wants to run into this with so many teammates down, and I think he's opting for the retreat plan.
It's over. It's over. They had a decent first hold there, but too much for Agilities to be able to bring back by himself. No reason to throw good money after bad and burn a blade there.
I'm really happy to see the return of Resurrection and Sound Barrier. It's a combo that we used to see all the time, to the point where it's just like, okay, enough of this. But it is a very good way of getting value out of the res. But here we go. Sound Barrier on the way from Immortals. Agilities diving to the back by Showmeister, wishing for another gear. Maybe next patch, Showmeister, as 2 kills, now 3 coming in for Immortals. Another res works out, but Res going to keep this fight a little bit more in progress.
Another res. Mercy still firmly in the sights of Agilities. Takes down Chi.
Oh, the reflected rocket. Have a taste of your own medicine there, Nicholas.
So all the kills coming for Immortals on this last point defense. They will hold out. 3 points is the final score for compLexity. 5 minutes for Immortals to get first point and force a draw. Of course, they want the win condition, already up 1-0 in this series. So if they capture first and last, they will take the second map going up 2-0. We'll see how they do it. That's a lot of time. That is a great amount of time. 5 minutes. Last is definitely a possibility here.
Certainly is, and take a look at Immortals and how they're positioned here. I mean, there's a lot of things they can run here, a lot of different things they can try to bring it in as well. They don't have to worry about their first push being the one that works. So having that extra bit of time buffer definitely helps in just planning out how you want to approach this early on.
Absolutely. And agility so far for me has been the Immortals MVP. He has done a lot of great work on the Genji, softening up targets, making Pharah think twice. He has been a standout player. His Genji's always been great. For those newer, that's where he came up. He was always a rock-solid Genji. He's been playing a lot more Roadhog lately, but with these dive compositions, you need your Genji to be very, very good. Honestly, I had this conversation with you yesterday. I don't think it's possible to be top 10 in North America without a good Genji on your team.
I mean, right now, you look at the world, most of your top teams in the world have a great Genji player. Arguably, one of the things that really hamstrung Envious back in Apex Season 2 was, guess what? They didn't have anyone that could have a credible Genji threat. So, yes, having a good Genji, very important. Now we take a look at Immortals as they come in here on their attack. They do have the Winston Genji dive combo up and at the ready, and they're not wasting any time. They dive in very deep here. But compLexity punishing in turn. 2 kills from the defense, make it 3, as that is not the high ground that Immortals thought they were going to be taking.
Well, that attack didn't really work out much. That is a full team kill. They will eventually take down Hype there. 6-0 in favor of compLexity on that fight.
And I think the problem there for Immortals is that was probably a little bit too telegraphed in regards to, hey, we're just going to go up the same right angle every time. Maybe this time they go left, but you'd almost wonder if that's a little bit predictable where, guys, right didn't work. Now we go left. Either way, compLexity not giving them a whole lot of time to think about it. Nicholas even considering getting pretty deep in here early on. Immortals being a little bit sluggish in deciding how they want to move in on this.
Hype to switch over to the Zarya to give his team a little bit more support and utility. That helps out as Shake goes down immediately.
Grim deep diving without fear. The Zarya shield let him get that down. So 65 opportunity for Immortals as Grim takes down another. He's been a terror here in the backline, and he has kicked open the door for Immortals as they try and get onto this point. compLexity trading back out a bit, but they're still on the downswing. It's going to be up to Nicholas to find a way to really pull this back in full.
Well, Nicholas is going to get sound barriered as their desperation time to hold on to this point. They have designs of winning. They don't even want to allow for a draw as they still stay on the point alive. Joe Meister will finally fall. There goes Nicholas. Very likely the 2 pieces that were stalling out. This should be Immortals' point in short order.
It is going to be Immortals' point, and they're going to get another 30 seconds to boot. That's almost 4 whole minutes to get here on the point B, and take a look at how they're going to do this here. Hex, they will have the Nano Blade up for this. Counter Nano Blade should be up, though, for compLexity, so it's going to be a tale of 2 Genjis as Immortals tries to put this one away right here, right now. Agility's going to the back. Oh, my God! Almost got both again. Gets slept at the end. Oh, that would have been ridiculous. Deja vu, but Reach doing a little bit more with his Dragon Blade, getting 2 down into the back. compLexity not going to suffer the same fate.
Well, a nice sleep dart there from Shake to really keep them alive into it. That is a full reset for Immortals. Everyone is out. They will be looking to go back in. Nicholas getting kind of cute here on the Tracer. Has to be careful, of course. Anna, not the threat she once was, sticked. She gets stuck. Ethan down with a Kobe Pulse Bomb.
From downtown, he's heating up, whatever you want to say. Very good Pulse Bomb from Nicholas, and I am absolutely dating myself right now. But take a look at Immortals. They're going to be coming back in with their next attack here pretty soon. And compLexity, they're being just about as aggressive as Immortals was here. Sound Bear comes out for Immortals, so the Sound Bear comes out a lot earlier than expected, but they also hit Pater. Reach out of the fight immediately. So is Hype, though, so Big Bang combo connects. Grim with 3. That's one way of swinging the fight back in your favor when it's even, as Grim goes completely off here on Anubis. That's going to be 1 tick for sure, perhaps 2. compLexity going to be fighting for their lives here sooner than they may have wanted. Almost there, about a quarter of a tick left as compLexity starts getting back onto this point, but it's going to be very difficult to reestablish control.
Agilities does have the blade out. He is slashing through, doing a lot of damage to this Diva. That will deep mech her, although now the time to kill has been a little bit slow. Shakedown, that is a lot of kills. Only 2 alive to contest this point.
Grim everywhere. No one can deal with him right now. Just swinging back and forth, cleaning up compLexity as they came out of those spawn doors. And Immortals, 2-0 now in the series, looking to perhaps finish off compLexity on control.
Very decisive fights there. Grim, that opening Pulse Bomb, and then late into the fight, you get Agilities on the Genji. So So crisp on the Genji tonight. It has been something that he has not necessarily run at the greatest levels. We know he was capable of it, but Agilities has found it tonight. Grim, play of the game.
Grim deserving of that bit of laughter, of course. This was set up by a great Graviton coming in, and Grim cleans his plate, goes in and just shuts down the retreat as well. What more can you ask from a Tracer in terms of following up a Graviton like that?
I was going to say, and that was a great play by Grim Reality, but Agilities was the one really carrying the team. But the thing about that is you can't do that alone as a Genji, you know? And so Grim Reality may have not had his name in the kill feed quite as much there, but it was a full team force for them to do that. And that brings up my question about their opponents here in compLexity. Is even Nicholas seemed a little bit silent there early on. We saw him have some few plays on Tracer there in that last defense, but then you got Reach, and I just am not seeing what he needs to contribute to pull things back, it seems.
Well, it's a team effort when your team plays well. It's also a team effort when everyone's playing poorly. So it's very difficult to isolate one person. It's easy to point to Reach because he's the new guy and he hasn't necessarily shown us a lot, but you're right. But you could say he was quiet, but you could say they're quiet across the board for compLexity. No one had a giant game. No, those giant pulse bombs didn't come in necessarily from Nicholas that they were landing yesterday. He had one of the best pulse bomb days I've ever seen on a Tracer yesterday. Still hitting pulse bombs there, not quite enough, but this Immortals team, very much like how Liquid was playing earlier, across the board, everyone having a great day.
To me, it is solidifying the idea, though, that when Immortals does well, it is off of their tank play. And yes, that includes Agilities when he's on tanks like Roadhog. I just feel like when we see the downturn, it's because you're seeing different games from Nomi and Hyped, and that's meaning that Grim is feeling like he has to do more, puts himself in worse situations where you'll see Grim flanking in from a mile away. This time, they were far more in control in all facets of the game, and all Grim really had to do was clean up great opportunities made by Nomi and Hyped here. So it's been much better for Immortals.
Hyped with very intelligent switches, too. The very early switch from D.Va onto Zarya after the first push onto attack failed entirely, and then to give the bubble to Grim so that he can deep dive. It pulls them so far back, and it just allows him. It's a small thing, but making that switch there instead of another fight later gives them more time. It's like you have to be perfectly crisp on those, and Hyped really understanding that his D.Va is so crucial to this team. If they're going to run that dive composition, dive doesn't have to be everyone dives in. Zarya can fit in a dive comp.
Yeah, and D.Va for that matter, because honestly, the flavor of the month as far as dive is the triple DPS with, the diving in there. And so you can still bring a D.Va, and I actually really like that on Temple of Anubis, because what does that bring you on to second? It brings you maybe the second most impactful. I'm not going to rank them, but obviously the Blade is a good one on second. But D.Va's self-destruct can be really impactful on second, and we actually saw that in their first attack, but then immediately swapping off of it as it wasn't working on first in their second attack. And they really needed their tanks to perform, and they are performing here. Well, the next map has been selected, and it is going to be Nepal. Once again, selected by compLexity, and hashtag called it from the desk. This is some pretty next level predictions here, if I do say so myself.
I kind of want to veto via some sort of magical ability, like just find a way down to Blizzard servers and just disable Nepal. And be like, I'm sorry, you guys have to go to Oasis now, which was really fun to see different takes on Oasis in terms of, do you run the air, do you run the ground? There, but teams have very much settled down in Nepal. I do wonder if they have converted to whatever religion Zenyatta and Mandata subscribe to, because it's trying to find a reason for it being Nepal every time across the entire spectrum of OCS teams.
This is why we can't have nice things. Blizzard gives you a map with jump pads, trampolines, and all the fun in the world. The only thing missing is a ball pit, and then you still play Nepal every time. Come on.
Cars. They give you cars.
They give you cars,
Right.
yeah. That's a new environmental way to die. Well, and if only we had ball pits. That's why they didn't select it. That's why we're on Nepal, because the treasure trove, I'm jumping on board, is the closest thing we're going to get to a ball pit down there.
There's no treasure down there.
I just tilted him so hard.
There is absolutely treasure down there. Prove me wrong.
I've run camera for tournaments. I've gone down there. There is nothing. It is only the soulless, lifeless void, ZP, except the reality.
You did not go deep enough.
Well, first of all, why are you going down there? Is this like really getting the heads up on people falling off?
Sometimes camera can be fun to run,
Yeah,
It's just,
my biggest unfortunate regret here is that there used to be a way where you could get the camera out of bounds and just go wherever you wanted. And unfortunately, I may or may not have gotten that patched out just by doing it too many times.
You totally did. You abused it on Volskaya, but there was one night
Well,
where
you can fly from
we were
point
at
to point,
Volskaya
you
for
know?
like 2 hours one night, so I totally understood that
People
had to keep
needed to
himself
see the
safe.
gigantic robots in the background and how they were keeping peace in the streets of Russia. I have zero regrets.
Oh boy. Well, anyway, coming into Nepal to redirect us back to we are talking about Overwatch, but maybe more competitive Overwatch. I want to talk while we're waiting to get in the lobby about Widow because it is something that we saw this last both of these matches today, and we have been asking this question: how do you deal with it? And these are the list. This is the list that I've gotten from things that we've mentioned. I mean, one thing is, we have a counter Widow. It's always an option. I don't think I like that on Temple of Anubis, just because you can't switch as fast if they're just not running a Widow, and now you've got a dive comp coming at you, and it depends. I mean, I guess but you can win the ground war potentially, just literally outplay them on the grounds. But I like what they actually did here is the stay behind the shield strategy. You bring Winston, you bring Reinhard, and you win the ground battle with shields.
The problem is there, though, that you still have points where the Widow is getting very high-quality shots. So when you do commit to that, you have to still realize that you are making things more difficult for the Widow, but you are not preventing the Widow from potentially winning that there. You also have the unseen effect of the part where sight lines get completely worked around, where your DPS heroes that would likely like to be high in the air, using positioning to their advantage, are now hiding in pure terror from the Widowmaker. So there's no perfect solution for dealing with a Widow on first point of Anubis.
Yeah, and maybe then it's just like, well, let's bring whatever we can to lay it out as long as we can, give us the best shot, because we still have yet to see a solid answer for it. Well, we're probably not going to see a Widow here talking about sightlines, but there are sightlines potentially questioned by Nicholas as he's bringing Farah onto the first point of Temple of Anubis. compLexity are up against the wall. They've got to find victory here.
Well, Immortals now on Sanctum. No Orisa in sight. And Grim not really participating in the shield battle as much. Instead, going for the flanking damage onto the back line. We'll see if that works out as compLexity, meanwhile, is trying to win the shield war, but they lose reach immediately. He's picked off by Agilities, and suddenly Agilities going full hog into the back line. Not whole hog, he's just showing them his entire hog body.
That's one thing we've seen with Hook 2.0, that you have Roadhogs who will hook and pivot, especially on bridge. We've seen it more than once. That is a great way to open a fight. A delicate balancing act for Grim. Still alive, still defying gravity.
That fancy footwork there. Kind of like a video where someone's dancing on top of a skyscraper and you just want to vomit watching it. Well, that was Grim reality right there. Still, though, you look at how aggressive Immortals is being and holding this up. Hyped, nearly full energy, and usually teams hold a little bit further back here, but don't tell that to Immortals, who are very much going out of their way to poke down compLexity as they even come out of their spawn.
Hyped Zarya is just ill. He is hitting these giant right clicks to charge up his ultimate too. It's one of the reasons why they want to hold forward, just so they can get all the free damage, so they have ultimates in. They have to wait for the entire team. compLexity speed boosting in, gets the barrage. That shield will not last entirely, but down goes Nicholas. Beautiful helix.
Well, what beats a whole bunch of rockets? One very concentrated bundle of rockets as Grim takes him down immediately. Agility's piling on. And when you lose your Farah that quickly and the barrage is not successful, it's very hard to turn that back in your favor as Immortals just being absolutely impressive. Not like compLexity really get through the storm.
No, very difficult. Hype is going to have Graviton ready too, and Immortals has been all over compLexity today. They're already up 2-0 in the series, and if they win this series, they get compLexity in the playoffs.
Indeed, it's Hype heading on to the Graviton. Gonna drop the Graviton, pulls into not the biggest Graviton, but it does let them get the cleanup and will stall out compLexity. And you don't always need the crazy 5-man Gravitons if you get enough to just stop a push where it stands.
And it's a one fight, regardless, either way. That's a nice hook that's going to take down Nicholas. Agilities seems to know this range perfectly, is dialed in on the hooks.
Almost grabs another one there, and Immortals, they're gonna back up a little bit because Grim is not in this fight. I do like how they're realizing that Grim is just respawning, so now you have the Earthshare coming in here from the side. Oh, goodbye, Grim!
That was
Go
just...
search for that hidden treasure as Nicholas coming back in over the top. 4 kills here for compLexity. And if there's a hope of Immortals bringing that back, it definitely went away when Grim took his final journey.
Just poor positioning to try to get Grim over there. I thought they had everything set up, but the good thing is they died without wasting ultimates at the very least. Hype did not have, sorry, that's Grim Reality, who's going to have Tactical Visor incoming. Agility's whole hog in. One of them could get boosted potentially as Ethan now finds his ultimate.
Whistling here in the back, holding onto the attack visor. Everyone could have everyone in their sights here, but it's going to be a little bit better for Grim because he has the option of getting nano boosted into this fight. So Nicholas going to have to move the Skyle, but here comes Grim. He's opening up here with the attack visor. Soundbear up here for the side complexity, trying to even it out a bit. No! More soldiers into the pit. We're all in the pit now. X as Grim now doesn't have to worry about the counter soldier poke. Completely free to lay in the damage here on the side. And with Agilities being the front line, this is going to give a very strong take here to Immortals. And 99%, this could be it.
This very well should be it as they ended up going in there. I do not like the target selection from Nicholas on 76 there. He popped his visor, thought that he had a free Nomi there. Nomi got naded, and then he was chasing it so hard, ended up getting booped off the cliff. I mean, it was a desperate situation for him, but I think you could have found a little squishier target than Nomi.
Very likely so, though I think at that point they were very much worried about losing the fight and they had zero buffer room left. So
that's true.
When you do get in those late situations without any form of buffer, you do sometimes take decisions that you wouldn't take if you had maybe the enemy team at 50%.
Absolutely. Well, Agilities is going to show us his Pharah, see what he's got. He's not going to have a Mercy with him, so the healing orb very likely to be on him as Verbal keeps the ground crew steady. And this is something that compLexity has struggled against. However, they are in their anti-Pharah comp already. 4 tanks, Nicholas on Diva.
See just how this works out. Of course, Agility's perhaps not going to have the crazy game that Mangachu did, but is certainly going to be looking for it. compLexity not making it easy for a Pharah player here. Of course, we saw how they handled Mangachu just yesterday, and Ethan gonna go down immediately. So Immortals struggling to find early pickoffs here. They do get Grim into the back on Shake, but I do wonder what's gonna be enough as Agility's really not finding much of all here. And Hook 2.0 gonna save his bacon. Agility's still looking for poke. Not too much happening. compLexity very much winning the ground war.
Not enough. Agilities can stay alive if you want. It doesn't matter. You got absolutely nothing done. Grim gets down late there. They're not worried about Agilities at all, and he hasn't proven that he should be a cause for concern just yet. All this damage being absorbed by these tanks in the pools, gonna get all the healing up. Joe Meister already has Sound Barrier. Agilities, I will give like one more life, and then you have to really consider switching off of this.
I don't think he's going to stand the Pharah too much longer if they don't retake this here. So Agilities is coming in on the right flank. The rest of Immortals coming in up the gut. Grim, of course, freelancing into the back. And compLexity just staying together here as one happy tank family. Immortals really struggling to do much in terms of significant poke. Meanwhile, you have Reach here, 80%, doing all sorts of damage on the Zarya into the shields, into the front line. The Immortals just can't decide how they want to poke in. And here comes compLexity. Counter engage on the way. Nano boost, whole hog. They do take some serious damage from the barrage into the back. See if it's enough now as Immortals, slight number advantage, gonna be rushing on to point. And compLexity, they burn the Sound Bear. They want to hold on to this right now.
They do want to, but it is too late as Grim comes in with a Pulse Bomb, Torque down. Now the tanks are down. It is just Reach remaining on the point, and he is cleaned up in short order there. The barrage was very nice. Got 2 kills, did give his life for it, but it was a nice distracting flank as the ults were coming in on the front door.
And now we are going to have a tale of 2 Gravitons, perhaps. Nicholas, of course, going to be looking to eat Hype's Graviton. Reach going to be looking to just land a deep Graviton of his own. Here comes Hype. Has to be aware of the Diva here. The early Graviton in from Reach doesn't get nearly as much as he wants, and the counter Grav is out. Pulls in 3. Nicholas with the fall through in over the top. And the Immortals with a much better Graviton play there, leaving compLexity drained of ultimates and drained of the point.
Well, you set that up perfectly. Tale of 2 Gravitons. The one ended up with a Lucy on the other side of the wall that no follow through, and then Hypes grabbed everyone. Clean up absolutely there as everyone on both teams burned through ultimates. Use them if you got them, boys, and they did. And very nice for Immortals as they try to equalize the map score. Gonna be about 50%. Probably will take the lead before the next fight. And Agilities is getting close to a barrage again. Oh, nice rocket on the entry.
Ethan just falls immediately. Agility's gonna try, but oh, there's the barrage. Takes that one, almost grabs a second, and it was looking like it was gonna be huge, but rather small in retrospect. Still, members of Immortals are still up and around the delay this a little bit more, but compLexity definitely with the more dominant edge on the point right now. They're going to get a third, but Grim just going to stall this out as much as possible. Even picks up a kill before falling.
Yeah, they have to be careful. They might not even get this flip back over. That's how great the stall from Grim was. A pulse bomb will come in, but Torque goes down during that, not able to finish the pulse bomb kill.
Well, now this is really dangerous for complexity because they're starting to get pushed off the point. Immortals was able to reinforce that just in time. They're at 88%. Complexity must get back on here. They use their nano boost very haphazardly here. It's not a great choice for any reason. And they lose Joe Meister in the back as Immortals is flanking them. This is bad for complexity as they have to stay on the point now no matter what.
Panic Nano for sure. It came way too far out. He's not going to get any damage done until half of the Nano is over, and Immortals pulls it back. I look back at the moment for Grim Reality on the point. 1v2 takes down Lucio, stalls it out, does die, but the stall out allowed the rest of his team to come in, and that was what set up the control for the fight at last. One stage away from sweeping complexity here.
It is pretty interesting where this is where if we were talking about Liquid, which we were earlier today, we were saying, uh-oh, is this a time for the reverse sweep? Less likely that Immortals would let it happen to them, although you go back to week 1, they were in a very similar situation. It would be interesting, though, just because this would be the first day of play where we would have 2 3-0s, I believe.
Yes, it would be. When you go back to week 1, they're the only team that gave Loyal a victory. Loyal brought it back from the brink, took them to 5, and got their first win. Different looking Immortals team, though, in my opinion. Agility is going to stay on this, and
I'm touching Hex's hand now. We have Hype on the Orisa. I need the moral support here as Immortals looking to end this with a little bit of style. Oh, it's happening again. Fortify out here for Hype. Gonna drop that Orisa barrier. Now using her damage to crack through that shield and just be a big distraction here. Hasn't done too much with it here yet, but we'll see how it handles. And while they're worrying about Hype, Gildies goes in from the back, grabs Shake. So for Immortals, it's a slower push here, but this consistent Orisa presence works out as Hype picks up the double.
You know why it makes a lot of sense, too, is the other hero we used to see on this stage, and only this stage, was Mei. And it's because her wall can do a complete side of the point. And you see that with the shield barrier, too. When these fights are going to happen on the point, you really only need the shield on one side, and you get so much coverage from it. So an interesting play by Hyped, who's always been a good flex tank, flexing on the newest of tanks. They will grab first point, already 15%.
And this is interesting because if you're worrying about getting through the Orisa front line, you're not worrying about agility. So it's going to be Agility's
beautiful
space as he just serves one up to Shake. Very nice engage here from Agilities and Immortals. 3-0 on this fight. complexity just desperately looking for the exit.
He saw a Zenyatta, and that makes Farah's eyes light up, dives him hard, hits the rockets. Beautiful play from Agility's Farah. I gotta say, after that first life he had on it where he got very little, he's come to life on the Farah. It's been a great night for Agilities on several different heroes.
And the thing is for Agilities, he hasn't had to be the absolute hero here. Immortals is not investing that much into him. He's sort of freelancing, making it work, and there you go. The mini Graviton charge coming out. As Hyped, able to really sustain through that damage. With 4-5 is up, you're not doing a whole lot to an Orisa. And while they're focused on that, Agilities picks up 2 in the back line. It's been working.
Grim on this chase really wants himself a Lucio.
Doesn't get it.
It's okay, Grim. Can't get all of them.
Actually, there's the potential for profound sadness there. As Grim was at 34 health, the Lucio actually could have turned that around.
Well, 70% here, probably looking at being one of the last fights, at the very least the penultimate for complexity if they cannot find an answer for this. Hype has not died so far. Ultimate not quite there yet, though, so we might not see the Orisa ultimate here. They've just been dominating this high ground, looking for an entrance. They will dive onto Hyped.
They go and dive on him, but I'm not sure Winston dive on the Orisa is actually the play. There's a lot of things Orisa do can stay alive in that and just counter fire. So Hyped a little bit under pressure, does have the Discord orb on him. Gonna back out a bit, drop the shield, and while they're focusing on that, we'll see what the backline does, but this time it's much better for complexity. They have 2 kills early on. Reach pulls out the Dragon Blade, looking for anything here. Doesn't get too much off the Dragon Blade, but it's enough of a distraction that the rest of complexity just rolls in from the front.
And Hype used the ult in there, and it got blown up right away. We don't get to see the Orisa ult in full action. This complexity did take it back, and what's good for complexity here is that they have saved some ultimates too. Hype just going to go to the Diva instead. That's very likely to deal with Torque as Soldier 76. We'll see if Agility switches off. He is going toward the back line.
I do think that switching off the Orisa here is probably good in the sense that it seems like she's better at contesting in the beginning and holding rather than retaking.
Yes.
So I'm totally fine with this with how Immortals is playing this, as Reach does take down Nathan in the back to start this off. It's an early pick. They both trade out. 5 versus 5 on the point as Torque is finding Winston in his face, desperately under pressure, and he's going to go down. The fall through is there from Agilities, and now Immortals swarming back onto this point. They get a very key kill. They don't have to worry about the tac visor, and this is where Grim shines. Early skirmishes in the fight where it's 1-on-1, 2-on-2s, and Immortals on the verge of not only taking this round, but taking the series.
Shake was out in no man's land on his Zenyatta, got cleaned up by Grim. It is desperation time. Torque and Joe will go down, and with them going down, as will compLexity fall 0-3, all Immortals tonight, and that can't feel great for compLexity, because their seeding now puts them up against Immortals in the playoffs, who just bodied them.
Yeah, it is the unfortunate thing here where, hey, you've lost to Immortals. Well, guess what? You get to play Immortals again less than a week later. It's not an ideal look, to say the least.
It's the worst consolation prize I think you can get in this circumstance.
Yeah.
But we've got it. We had Orisa in both of our matches, and I actually really thought this was a more telling performance on it. And I do have only one conclusion so far. I'm not sure that Winston diving in is the best counter by itself.
No. The problem with the Winston diving in there is that the Winston is diving in. Orisa's going to use Fortify. She's going to take 50% less damage. And, of course, she already has a lot of armor, which Winston has trouble dealing with to begin with. So for those 4 seconds, Winston is really not doing much damage at all to Orisa. Meanwhile, in return, she can fire back